Hello, world. Your favorite podcast host, Anthony, here with another episode of 50 States of Terror, the American Cryptid Podcast. I would like to give a quick shout out to the Patreon members, Tom, Stina, Saudith. Thank you for your continued paid Patreon memberships. I truly appreciate your help with keeping the lights on. For the free members, thank you for subscribing. I'm beginning to make some additional content for Patreon. So be on the lookout for that. So what is new? I started my part-time job last week and it's going great. As you all know, I will be losing my main job in September and I start graduate school in August. So this part-time job will definitely help. I still have my GoFundMe open. If you know of any businesses or organizations that offer scholarships, you can search for my scholarship campaign in GoFundMe. And the title is Support Veterans Dream, Notre Dame Grad School. You'll see a couple of pictures of me with a short description about who I am. And again, if you know of any organizations or any businesses that have scholarships available, please share that link. Let's see. What else is new? Well, it's summer here and it's very hot. So stay cool this summer. Remember to stay hydrated and take breaks. All right. Let us let us get into our state. Texas. Okay, Texas. Let's start this history lesson 9,200 BC with the earliest inhabitants of the land that will eventually become Texas. Paleo Indians, specifically called the Clovis people, hunted Ice Age mammoths. These hunter-gatherers survived through the Paleo-Indian period right up to the Archaic period. Now, by the time the Europeans began to spread from the south and from the east, major indigenous peoples tribes included the Coahuteco, Caddo, the Karankawa, and the Tonkawa. Oh, and the Apache, to name a few. And I really hope I'm pronouncing those tribes correctly. In 1519, the Gulf Coast was mapped by explorer Alonso Alvarez de Pineda. By the beginning of the 1600s, you will remember my past episodes about the French moving west and the Spanish moving north. You may remember one French nobleman, Robert Callier de la Salle. Let's see, he traveled the Mississippi from the Great Lakes to seek out a greater border between Spain and the French territories of the Americas. La Salle pretty much claimed the entire Mississippi River as French owned and then sailed back to France to convince the French King Louis XIV to colonize the lands for French rule. He ultimately got the approval and then sailed back to America, but then apparently missed his target from the Gulf and landed further into Mexico than the Mississippi Delta. Spain got wind of this French movement and decided it was time to move further north. Spain sent Alonso de Leon to establish missions in modern-day East Texas. Then, in the early 18th century, French supported Franciscan missionaries to establish missions across the territory. This prompting Spain to reoccupy lands further and further north and west of the Mississippi River. All the while, fighting with French and indigenous people, although local tribes put up a good fight. Ultimately, in 1762, Spain claimed the majority of the lands after the 7-Year War. Then, the Mexican War of Independence, remember the Mexico episode, Officially claimed the lands as Mexico in 1821. This passive piece of land included all of modern day Texas and the majority of the western North America. By 1836, Texas government formed, and along with it was a war from Mexico. This led to the most famous battle in Texas history. Did you know that Andrew Jackson and Martin Van Buren didn't even want Texas at first? Um, but France and Great Britain wanted Texas to. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I wanted Texas to remain independent for their own political and economic reasons as its own country. But in 1845, Congress approved the Texas. Oh, Congress approved for Texas to become a state. This led to the Mexican American War, where by the end of the conflict, the Republic of Mexico ceded land that would become California, Nevada, Utah, and Arizona, establishing the Rio Grande establishing the Rio Grande as a border of Texas and Mexico, in various other treaties such as the Guadalupe, Hidalgo, and Gadsden Purchase, reshaped what would now be the border. So that purchase, the treaty, everything that it reshaped how modern day America and Mexico became the border. The Compromise of 1850 reshaped Texas to what it is today. And then the Texas Troubles began, which heavily involved slaves and the possibility of slave revolts, which then led to a Texas vote to secede from the United States and join the Confederate States of America. During this time, Texans who still supported the Union faced severe consequences. I can't speak today. Severe consequences, which did include execution. This led to some incredible internal conflicts with the state. Because if you look at the timeline, the people within Texas were fighting in a constant war from 1821, when Mexico gained independence from Spain, to the end of the Civil War. And with this came a revolving door of ideologies. Okay, here we go. Ideo ideologies. I cannot say anything today. You know what I'm talking about. Religious views and moral standpoints. Because you had one war against a country, then 20 years later, you were fighting a war against your brother who thought the Union has some good ideas. But with the defeat of the Confederacy, Texas rejoined the United States in March 30th, 1870. Also, you want to get into an interesting rabbit hole interesting rabbit hole on how politics evolved into the shit show it is today. Look into the evolution of Republican, Democratic, and how Whigs, Federalist merged into the realms of Republican and Democrat, because Republican and Democrats were vastly different, and like a fucked up Pokemon evolved into a mess of bullshit. But I digress. Texas has one of more of the diverse ecosystems, with the piney woods, Gulf prairies, marshes, plains, and beaches. It is one of the largest states in the Union and has a comparable size to that of France. Its capital is one of the largest states in the Union and has a comparable. I already said that. it's if you can't tell, I'm reading because it's easier just to read from my notes. And today, obviously, like I can't talk worth the shit, so I can't improvise with the shit either. So I'm doing it. I'm doing it by what I wrote this time around. Oh, and if you hear small little munches, that's our new dog, Moxie. She's right beside me, and she is making a lot of noise. Okay, where was I? The shit show that is politics, because we all know that's a shit show. I mean, we're not even gonna get more in depth with that. Let's see. With its capital, Austin, one of the most notable music scenes in all of North America. Even though Texas is experiencing some troubling times economically, politically, morally, and ethically, Texas is my home state. I have a deep love for my state, and if you decide to come visit the great state of Texas, take advantage of the many national parks, the state parks, barbecue, beaches, the Tex Mex culture, the food. Oh man, the food. Enjoy your stay because the stars at night are big and bright. Okay. So, like always, I choose to go over the more obscure cryptids of each state and give a little guy the voice when they go up against heavy hitters like Mothman and the Jersey Devil. Texas is an interesting state to do cryptid research for because many of the ones that Texas claims are already seen in other states, like Chupacabra, the Wampus cat, and even different countries like the La Chusa, which is in Mexico. This gives the blend of cultures that Texas has, and of course, no state gets to claim Bigfoot. And I will die on this hill. This, however, allows me to explore some lesser known ones like the Hogzilla and the Bear King of Marble Falls. So, first up, Hogzilla. The origin of this cryptid actually start in Georgia, where evidence of this cryptid exists in the form of hunting photos. This cryptid is as easy as they come. It is a very big wild hog. The reason why this is part of Texas cryptids is the fact that there is a huge problem with wild hogs within Texas. Wild hogs are not native to Texas, and there are many videos on YouTube that show just how problematic these creatures are. These hogs cause agricultural, ecological, ecological property damage. They transmit diseases and cost the state a substantial amount. To help control this, the state has an open season for feral hog hunting. Because of the reproductive rate, it is a challenge to control the population. Now, with this comes the story of a massive feral hog weighing over 1,000 pounds. That's 453.5 kilos for my metric audience, and is over 12 feet long. Now, there are reports and pictures of almost 9 feet long and 800-pound monsters, but first hand accounts of farmers or hunters have indicated that there are hogs that reach the insanely massive. That's what she said. The world record is a pig from China that weighed 1,984 pounds. And Big Norm was a pig who grew to 1,600 pounds and had a length of 8 feet 4 inches. These are confirmed pigs, not feral hogs, but this does fall into the category of a proven cryptid, and I say proven in quotation marks. The existence of a giant feral hog is true, but is it the 12 feet long, 1,000-pound monster that can still maneuver with the agility of a normal sized pig? Yes and no. I'm calling this one probably the closest to a factual, without a doubt, possibility of existing. And that is the 12-foot one, by the way, because of how pigs can grow. It is a possibility of them getting very, very large, but their movements are hindered. So that would mean that the sheer size of a 12-foot Hogzilla would be downright terrifying. Remember to be careful when you venture into the farmlands of Texas because feral hogs are true and they are angry little bastards. And of course, if you come across Hogzilla, you will need a large caliber round to get that thing down. But yeah, Hogzilla. The fact that we know that hogs can get very, very large doesn't necessarily mean that this thing is not true. Now we know that to be a fact that they can be huge, but I think the cryptid side of the house is their ability to still have the agility and the movement of one that isn't that big, like insanely massive and insanely muscular. Does that make sense? Because we know that they can get huge, but the ones that we know died of health complications because they just could not move. I think the fact that if you were seeing one that could move, that was that big, that is the cryptid part, and I think that is it's as factual. Well, it's a plausibly factual, in my opinion. Okay, here we go. This is going to be a weird episode. This is a crazy episode. I had a long day at work, man. Work was just it was a good day, but it was just a long day. I was doing orientation classes all of yesterday and the day prior, um, and just learning new things. So today is a very interesting day to be yeah. Especially I wanted to record for tomorrow's episode because this comes out at midnight. So anyway, I'm sorry. Okay, next up is the Bear King of Marble Falls. This story comes from 1901 in Marble Falls, Texas. The Kickapoo indigenous people had a local legend of a bear man who would rule over all of the bears in the region, thusly referencing it as a bear king. It is reported that a sighting took place in Marble Falls and also included the abduction of a woman named Rami Arland. The story goes that Rami, I'm just going to call her Rami because, yeah, Ramie, Rami. Let's go Rami. Rami was out in the farm tending to a sheep flock where her screams could be heard by her family. Following this was the description of a roar of a panther. After a search party was started, it wasn't until the following day where a hunter found Rami wandering the woods about several miles away. She said that she was abducted by a bear man and brought her to a cave in the mountains. A small group of locals went to inspect this cave, and it is said that they came across a man-like figure who growled like a panther and beat on his chest. The group then shot the man-like creature, but there were no reports of how they disposed of the body. Other than this main story, there are slight variations, such as the man was more bear-like than feline, and growled like a bear rather than a panther. Other stories have the Bear King in a full-on fight with the locals, while others say that it was a non-aggressive encounter. So, what is the bare bones of this story? Pun intended. This may be an instance of local indigenous folklore that was told to keep people away from certain parts of the mountains or to scare others away from an area. We know that this stems from Kickapoo lore. Since peoples have traveled through Texas, the story may have been retold, and this may be an instance of a way to cover up some sort of alternative motives. Perhaps Rami Arlen was in love with someone who was frowned upon by her family, and then some sort of hoax made up the story so she may be alone with her lover. Or perhaps this is a case of a pharaoh man, one who may be likened more to a werewolf than bear, and in some way was attuned to its surrounding nature. Either way, there was nothing more than this one particular story. This doesn't necessarily disprove that something extraordinary did in fact occur involving a half man, half bear humanoid, but yet another very interesting lore legend that has transcended and stood the test of time of as a lesson. So, what is that lesson? Always keep your eyes open in the woods. Now let's rate these cryptids. I'm going to combine these two into one single score, and I give them around a 4 to 4.1. And honestly, it was the Hogzilla that did the score justice. You see, the fact that I have personally seen how large these feral hogs can get leads me to believe that there can truly be one that is just a fucking massive, massive animal. Uh, Unbelievable proportions, you know? I know that they can't, I know that they can be very aggressive, especially if there are young hogs around with their protective parents. So I can believe that a truly massive specimen of a pig may be lurking around the Texas outdoors. And as far as the Bear King, even if I was to do this by itself, this one would have been like a 2, maybe even a 3. There wasn't a whole lot of meat to this lore and to this story. And even if you try to get into like more descriptive articles that may be out there on it, it does get a little far fetched towards the end. So if you just take exactly what may have happened, I I mean I give it a 2, give it a 3, because the possibility of it being a just a a story to keep someone out of the woods, then absolutely. Moxie, come here. Yeah, if you hear my dog, that's she just wants attention. So that is it for this episode of 50 States of Terror. And I still can't talk. That is it for this episode of 50 States of Terror, the American Cryptid Podcast. Thank you all for listening. And here is Ziggy's wisdom. Learn at least one hard trade skill in your lifetime. It doesn't matter what it is. Is it plumbing, electrical, woodworking, engineering, mechanics? It doesn't matter. Try to at least learn one skill. You don't even have to master the skill, just have a foundation to build from. Oh, and enjoy a play or musical done by your local performing arts center or university. Support the arts, man. Support the arts. All right. Later, y'all. Thank you.